Welcome to Spanreads, not your typical rereads podcast, a 17th shard series where we reread Brandon Sanderson's works and are giant nerds about it. Today we will be talking about the Skyward Flight novellas. Joining me is Jessie.
Hello, I'm Lady Lameness.
Ian.
Hey, I'm your writer.
Eric.
Hey, I'm Gas.
And I'm Mish, or firstRainbowRose. As a warning, we will be doing full spoilers for these episodes. This is the warning to our viewers and listeners that there will be full spoilers for all Skyward novellas, excluding Defiant, from this point forward. For this episode, we are discussing relationships.
Look, the last episode we compared with Cytonic, there's too much relationship stuff for us to talk about here, so that's fine.
Yeah.
That's what these novellas are all about here.
Yeah. So, let's see here. First, characters and relationships. Where do we want to start?
FM Rig.
Yeah, I think we should start FM Rig, Sunread.
Yeah.
The original relationship that we get to.
Which is so cute.
It was so cute still on a reread because Rig did ask Spencer about FM. Like, he did do that. But also it makes sense that FM would be like, oh yeah, you totally like Spencer. It's like, oh, you're just, why doesn't he want to hang out with me? And then she's like, oh no, I'm so dumb, which is really good. Like she saw it and is like, oh no.
And it makes sense why Rig never said anything, because like he asked Spencer. Spencer was supposed to follow up with him. She didn't.
Spencer being flaky. That's shocking.
So he makes the very reasonable assumption that like it went poorly. FM doesn't feel the same, and he's just going to suffer in silence.
Yep.
Rig's also a very quiet and kind of socially awkward person from the way the books have progressed up to that point. Like, he does seem to come out of his shell a lot more in the other novellas. And I think it makes sense that if he has a crush on someone, he's going to do the thing that a lot of teenagers do, where he doesn't know what to say. And he just climbs up. And it comes across as, I don't want to talk to you, because he doesn't know what to say and he doesn't know how to talk to her.
There are things in the Skyward, the series, and these novellas that are implausibly YA. Jancy did do a great job of setting up Jorgen as the admiral, and she did do the work even when you step back and be like, really? But like, it does make...
There's enough veneer of plausibility that we're like, okay, we'll go along with this, I guess.
But
you can accept it as, okay, this is a YA story. I can accept it as YA because there's enough there that it makes sense.
But what I would say is, this is extremely plausible YA romance here. Like that, no question here. Makes so much sense.
I would definitely say this is the best YA romance or teenage romance I have ever seen written. Like in any book ever, particularly in like YA fantasy. What I really noticed reading this romance is how much other YA romances read as adult romances. Like, you have these two characters who are just so romantically and sometimes sexually attracted to each other, and it reads like an adult relationship almost, whereas FM and Rig are so awkward around each other, and it's so realistic to what teenagers are like that I was blown away with how well this was written. And I've talked to a couple of people online who didn't necessarily like it to begin with. And I was talking to them about how this seems a lot more realistic versus a YA romance. And they're like, oh, actually, yeah, no, I totally can see it now. And they don't necessarily like it all that much more, but they can understand why it's gone in this direction more than we see with so many other romances in literally any YA series.
I can see why someone would be like, this is too awkward for me and I am bouncing off of it. So like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But look, as the nerdy math science guy, I find this very relatable as a romance. I was very invested in that. And I love how the relationship also progressed in things, and they get a lot closer. I love the scene in Redon where they're like, oh, we got to get Rig. Who's going to go get Rig? And FM's like, I should go get Rig. I'm like, but I mean, we all know Rig. It's fine. We could. And then she's just like, fine, we've been seeing each other. Like, our slugs know each other. Like, I didn't want to say it, but now I did.
Our slugs have a lot of training finding each other. It's like, yeah, like we all like, oh, poor Ned. Like,
it's time to come clean.
It's so good and very believable as well.
I love the thing with their relationship as well when it progresses that like, Rig is such an introverted person, but he's so good at being like that solid rock for someone. And like he was that for Spencer for so long. And he also provides that support to FM in a way that like when we first see her, like she has this personality that seems like she's always got it together, but inside she doesn't feel like she does, and she's just holding it all in. And then in Evershore, just like hearing her talk to Jorgen about how Rig helps me talk through things and I hate it, but it helps. And it's just like, that's such a Rig thing to do, to like be the person who was there to listen and be like, no, you have to talk about these things. It will make things better. And like FM grows definitely through her relationship with Rig. And I think we also see that with Rig. Like he is super awkward at the beginning and he's still awkward at the end, but he has so much more confidence by the time we get to Evershore than I think he did in Sunreach. Like he was just so much more withdrawn in Sunreach, whereas every time he's kind of brought into something in Redawn or in Evershore, it's like, yeah, okay, guys, whatever. And like he just opens up more to the people around him.
I think with that aspect of Rig providing stability, I think that relates to one of his character conflicts, really. He always wants to be able to do more to protect people, right? And so like he wants to be able to provide that stability and like, I mean, I don't have enough time to do the thing. And so that all really connects really well in my brain.
Yeah. Speaking of FM and Jorgen and the scene where she encourages him to open up, better way of putting it, FM and Jorgen's relationship is really great. Like the fact that they just like go at each other's throats is very, talking about realistic teenager relationships. I had those fights with my friend where you don't get physical, but the claws are out and you are going for wounds. And
it's like, you know exactly where to hurt them.
Yep.
Yeah. And what she says to Jorgen is like the ultimate pain of rejection. She knows exactly the thing to say to hurt him the most at that point.
Yep.
It's so crunchy and Redawn, all that happening, because like FM is like correct, right? In stealing the slugs. But also like Jorgen has a point as well, even though I think he's wrong. It's just all the character motivations seem very realistic. And then it's like, then the knives come out. Oh, yeah. So good.
Well, and I like that they don't immediately make up. Like that's one thing that a lot of YA books will do is it'll be a couple of chapters later and then suddenly, oh, well, we're having a heart-to-heart and everything's forgiven. And that doesn't happen here. You get that little bit of resentments lingering on and the self-questioning lingering on.
It really helped that the plot of Redawn was just like, we're like doing a lot, and so they didn't, even if they wanted to, there wasn't a chance. And then Jorgen's parents died, and then he's like, nope, we're not talking. I don't want to talk with anyone. I got stuff to do. So really one of the better, they need to talk, but we're not going to type thing, like incredibly well justified.
Yeah.
I think also in Evershore, because FM is the one pushing Jorgen to talk, that's probably still part of why he's pushing away because they have this conflict between them that they haven't resolved.
Mhm.
And she's trying to push him to do something he doesn't want to do when she's made it clear at that point that she doesn't see him as the leader anymore. So why should she be able to tell him what to do? But he's going through so much grief that he just doesn't know what to choose. So when they finally do address it, like, that's such a cathartic scene
Yes.
of having everything come together and like their friendship kind of coming back together and clicking back together as well.
Such a good scene. Such a good scene with Jorgen exploding. He's so stressed he exploded.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so we need to talk. We actually need to talk tough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk. You literally just exploded in the council meeting. We're gonna talk.
Okay, we'll talk. And talking about Jorgen himself, I loved his character conflict of becoming in charge. Like, Jorgen at the start of Evershore is so good of just, I have stuff to do and I'm going to push all the levers I possibly can. And I do not care about you, Vice Admiral. No, we're not doing that. And it's just so good. Like when someone from the assembly's like, hey, so they want to talk with you. And Jorgen's just, yeah, I'll talk with them in 3 days and you can start drafting a response 2 days. And like, right.
Well, it's that, like, he knows like the exact rule. Like, we don't have to respond for 3 days.
Yep. It's
Yep.
such a Jorgen way of defying, right?
The thing I loved about the beginning of Evershore and all of that is like he comes in as if like, okay, now I'm just breaking all the rules now. I'm going to take over. I'm in charge. I'm going to do what I want. But then to do what he wants, he brings in every single actual rule from the DDF handbook to make it kind of legal so that he can do everything. And that's such a Jorgen thing to do.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to break all the rules by using the rules to my advantage.
Jorgen's characterization, perfection. Like, especially, what was it in Read On? There was a moment where Alanik, well, in Read On, there were two things. There was Cobb not ordering them, and Jorgen's like, yes, I understand. You're not ordering us to do that. And they're like, hey, guys, like, come on. But also Alanik just being like, what are you... Why are you like this, Jorgen? Jorgen, you should just do the thing you need to do. It's perfect. It just, in his POV, out of his POV, he is Jorgen through and through. And what a treat to have Jorgen there. Yeah.
And definitely seeing his character arc from Skyward to here, and knowing that he becomes Admiral in the end, I think he has to go through that period of realizing that there's more to it than just the rules. Things are messy, and sometimes the rules shouldn't apply. And I think Grand story in Starsight is like, that's the whole point of it, right? Like, sometimes the rules are wrong. And I think by like Starsight, Jorgen still hasn't figured that out. Like, he's like, no, we have to follow the rules. There's a chain of command. We have to do what everyone says. We have to follow everything in the handbook. And by the time we get to the end of Evershore, like, he's using the handbook, but he's also realizing that there's more to it than that. Like, you can't just be a commander based off paper. You have to be able to make the decisions yourself. And in the battle, like, he's able to just direct everyone. I think he really takes that on as his own and figures out how to do it without relying on supplementary material.
One of my favorite scenes is it the same scene where Jorgen and FM are talking, but Jorgen's just like, I don't know what to do. And they talk through it. And it's like, okay, what do you want to do, Jorgen? And he like lists the priorities and like, yeah, that's the right call. We should do that. And that really focuses Jorgen. It's like, okay, this is the right thing. It's such a Windrunner Skybreaker thing, which is just such a crunchy dynamic, which is why that's so good. Like, rules, but like, no, but it's not right because it's the rules.
Yeah.
It's like he starts as a skybreaker and then realizes he's actually a windrunner and has to like make that transition.
I disagree there.
Okay.
Because I think this is getting into Stormlight spoilers.
Yeah, no.
But not because like the whole like my interpretation of the Skybreaker O's, because like the fifth one is like you become the law, which I think is like you reaching the point where you recognize the exact written words like aren't perfect.
True.
Yeah.
Learning how to adjudicate that in a fair way. Rather than just being like willy-nilly, like, I'm going to do what's right, which is what they think the Windrunners do.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually,
so it's like, he's becoming fifth ideal Skybreaker.
Yeah. Jorgen, wait, Skybreaker.
Yeah, that's a video where we just put all of Skyward Flight into Knights Radiant Orders. There you go.
Cool. Let's write that down. We have to do that now.
Okay.
Do that
Spence
for
is a
all.
will shaper, just saying.
So another Jorgen relationship is Jorgen and Boomslug, which is just so funny to start with, but then it gets really almost sentimental in a way. And like I was listening to the audiobook, so it kind of came across very different to me than the first time I read it, which is on paper, because Boomslug has a voice, like a very specific
Deep
accent voice. And whenever something happens and Boomslug responds to Jorgen, there's always this emotion in it. And it just felt like such a close relationship and connection. And like something bad would happen and Boomslug's like, boom. And then Jorgen's like, boom.
So they did an I am Groot situation with Boomslug.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like the parents exploding and Boomslug just like, boom.
Yeah. And like you could read that as a bad thing, like when the parents explode and Boomslug's like boom, and depending on the tone that could come across really badly, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's also they both make mind blades, like they do have that capacity for great destruction. And but they're can kind of be there for each other.
Yeah.
Overall, like Jorgen's relationship with the slugs, because he's like, okay, FM, sure. But then he like really grows to be attached to the slugs and things and talking to all the slugs. Because he does like have really good communication powers. Like, right? I don't know. I love that progression there. Because he really doesn't want to do that and thinks of them as things rather than people.
Yeah. And even after they stop thinking of them as things, they think of them like animals instead of a sapient being. And I think by the point that they've connected to these creatures, they realize how smart they are. And I think like that's the thing that comes across with Boomslug and all the other slugs is they are intelligent creatures that really seem to have like the same sort of mind power that humans have, and they can connect in the same way. That's really how it comes across to me.
You look like you disagree.
I do kind of disagree because like I don't think they're definitely not animals, but it's not like they're like below humans and like the other like humanoid like aliens, but they're just like on a different track. So like their minds are very different from humans, but they're still like have a capacity for empathy and understanding. And like they do know, they can understand what's going on. It's just like their brains work in such a fundamentally different way than humans.
And they communicate differently.
You've actually just explained exactly what I was trying to get to. I just didn't explain it very well.
Okay.
Like they're able to make decisions and help out, and everything that they do at the end of Evershore, it's like, oh, this is what you're trying to do. We will help you. And like they take that on themselves. They're not told to do that. But yeah, no, I think what you've explained is a much better way of saying it.
They're not like a human in a slug body. No. They are a slug that is very intelligent.
Yes.
They are an intelligent creature that looks like a slug. They are just another alien.
Even when they save the flight at the end of Sunreach, right? Like they're helping out there and things.
Yeah.
It's good.
I think the other Jorgen relationship we could talk about is Jorgen and Juno.
Ooh.
Because Juno is so funny and also just like the bravest kitten I think there is. Like, I know Hesho is super brave and Kaori is super brave and they do a lot of stuff, but Juno just like sticks around through the entire thing. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna like ride on your shoulder while you go through all of this really dangerous territory and do all of these things because I just want to stick with you and see what's happening and record it all. He sounds like a historian who just has
that's 100%
like a lion.
Yeah. Yep. He's an academic who is like, oh, like this subject I've just been studying for my entire life that I thought I was never going to interact with. Like, I found one. I'm not letting this creature out of my sight. Yeah. Like, no, you can't get away from me. You are mine now.
I'm writing the biography of like an Alexander the Great. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Juno is 10 out of 10. I love him so much. I love the kitten so much. But Juno, just his meditations, you are completely relaxed. I am not relaxed. and Alanik just saying, he keeps saying, I'm completely relaxed. I am not.
Yeah.
And Jorgen really seems to connect to Juno, even though like the meditations, they work, but they don't work in a way, right? Like, he doesn't feel relaxed, but they do work enough that he's able to manifest mind blades. Yeah. Whereas, like, sending Juno to Alanik, she's like, please take him back. I don't want him anymore. Please take him away.
Yeah. It's like, he's given up on me. And all I said was she doesn't have a capacity for mind blades.
Or an aptitude or something, yeah.
An aptitude for mind blades. And like,
yeah,
fair enough.
Makes sense she wouldn't like that.
I like the way they explained it is that like Cytonics like is such an intuitive learning experience that what works for one doesn't work for another. Alanik wasn't all that great at training Jorgen. So it makes sense that like Juno, like who is vibing with Jorgen in that way, like doesn't vibe with Alanik because like the way she interprets Cytonics, it like is on a different tack.
Yeah, which is just so funny because I don't think you necessarily get conflict between Juno and Jorgen, but Juno's definitely like, I didn't expect quite so much interruption. And Jorgen's like, Alanik will probably interrupt you less. It'll probably be better. And yet it's like, it's absolutely not better, which is why Juno and Jorgen are just so good together. Oh, I love it. So good. There's one more Jorgen relationship. Mom. Dead mom.
Oh, yeah.
And his dead dad, technically.
And his dead dad, but you know, meh, who cares? He's present. But isn't it just so good that you hate Jeshua so much in Sunreach? And even like in Redawn, you're like, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. And she's just like, do better than we did. I'm like, ow. Oh, brutal.
Like that line, how dare you, Jancy? You kill me. And then it just gets repeated over and over. And it's like, thanks for just stabbing me again and again and again.
And stabbing Jorgen.
Yeah, and it's like, it is such a great line because like it is a like, there's so many ways you can take that. Whereas like, it is this like hopeful thing of like, do better than we did. Like, I believe you can, but also like do better than we did or else. Like, it's both like supporting him and also putting such an incredible weight on him.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way.
True. And also just like the guilt that she had about it because she thought she was doing the right thing and did terribly.
Yeah.
Which I guess like does give that weight. Yeah.
That gives that weight.
That's pretty good though. I like that.
I mean, Detritus lost a lot of weight with that song.
Oh,
true.
Like Yeshua and I can't even remember his
Algernon.
name. Algernon. Yeah, Algernon. have been terrible people since the beginning. Like in Skyward, they are awful people. Nobody likes them at all. Like not even Ironsides like them, which
Is
we like Ironsides. Like as a character reading her, it's like, oh, your enemy is my enemy type thing. Like I just don't like these characters. But to get it to the place and put it in the perspective of Jorgen, who, even if his parents are terrible, they're his parents. He loves them.
Yeah.
And he feels so much loss. I did not expect to cry over the death of like Yeshua Wade, but then I did. Thanks, Jessie. You did amazingly.
And then like there's the line in like Evershore about like how when he was a kid, like he would hide behind furniture and pop out and scare his mom. Like it's like such like a cute little kid thing to do. And then you remember, oh yeah, and she's dead now.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like the part with the parents, Jorgen just likes the chain of command, and so I think there's like a lot of like respect and authority that he cedes to his parents in sort of that same way. And so killing them off and getting rid of Cobb as well is a great way to just like, well, have fun dealing with that now, Jorgen.
And there's that scene at, I think it's the first scene of Evershore where it's like the flashback scene
Yes,
Mhm.
the
to
prologue.
before, when he's graduating.
Mhm.
And you could just almost feel the weight on his shoulders, like the pressure that's being put on him by his parents, by like the DDF. And I think you like, I really like what you were saying, Ian, about how the Do Better Than We Did could actually make that worse and be like,
Mhm.
no, you have to do better now because we did badly and it's now all on you, which is not at all how I thought about it the first time. But that, yeah, I think that really works.
It's a complicated thing. Like last words are always such an interesting thing
Mhm.
because like they're dead. Like you can't ask them exactly what they meant. There is an inherent ambiguity there.
Yep.
But also like it doesn't matter what she meant there. It matters like how Jorgen is interpreting them.
Yep.
Which it's a good thing that he interprets it with the more positive spin rather than the negative one, because
Mhm.
Jorgen could very easily go into a self-spiral if he
Mhm.
were to give it the more negative spin.
I think it is there. He's just not consciously like dealing with it as part of like the narrative. Because like he is like very aware of like the pressure he's under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like I need to do better. He's just not acknowledging how much of that pressure is coming from that statement.
Yeah.
I do wonder his actions at the beginning of Evershore where he's like, now I'm going to go take over now. How much of that comes from not just his grief, but like specifically that line? It's like, do better than we did. It's like, okay, I'm going to go do what needs to be done now.
Yeah. That line's kind of like subconscious in like all of Jorgen's POV in Evershore, which is
Yeah.
why it's so good.
Yeah, I think it's brought up like 4 times in
tons.
Evershore.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
The way I also like to think about it is like Yeshua Wade is like the type of character who never thinks she's wrong and always thinks that what she does is the right thing. If someone tells her to do something else, she's like, no, you're wrong, I'm right. And the idea that she says that because she's acknowledging that she screwed up and this was the wrong call. And she's never kind of done that before, was
Probably,
the
yeah.
impression I got. And Jorgen's probably had to deal with this his whole life. It's like his mother and probably father as well, like refuse to accept that they can be wrong. So to have it right at the end when he loses them, that sounds devastating.
Devastating.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like-
I finally admit to you that I can be wrong, and now I'm gone.
Bye. And then it's so easy to just talk about Jorgen so much because he's just so prominent in all of
Yeah.
these. But we
Yeah.
also have Alanik.
Alanik is there.
One of my favorite things was in Read On, just Arturo and Alanik not trusting each other. It's like, who's going to betray each other? Even though, like, you know, they're aligned. You know, Skyward Flight wouldn't betray Alanik. But also just that conflict, and Arturo's like, yeah, I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm gonna keep an eye on it. But then they grow to respect each other. And honestly, Arturo, I kind of get crushing on her. I get it. I get it, man. I know you don't like it.
Pretty alien lady.
Yeah. She's pretty cool. She's pretty cool is what I'm saying.
She is pretty cool. And it's like, I remember like my first read, I got very strong Ace Arturo vibes. And I didn't really pick up on that this time round. So I'm like, what were the things I was picking up like, the first time round?
That was not the vibe I got for sure, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember at this point. I'm like, it might as well happen. Sure.
Yeah.
I really like that they had that scene between Alanik and Arturo of, hey, I don't actually trust you. Because I feel like in a lot of YA, if two groups come together, it's like you can feel the tension between them, but it's never directly addressed. And I kind of expected that to happen this time. It's like, okay, they're working together and no one's really talking about the fact that what if the other one betrays us? So to actually have a scene that brings that up makes this so different to so many other things I've read.
It's a very teenagery thing to do, I think, is to be direct like that. You know, adults tend to have it drilled into them. They have to be socially more reserved versus a teenager still has the innocence, not the innocence of youth, but the freedom of youth to be direct like that and just be like, nope, I think you're going to betray us and I'm going to come out and say it.
Mish, that's just because you don't like conflict. That's not everyone. let's be honest here.
Well, yeah, see, I would disagree with that. I think this is actually coming from Arturo like maturing and being a very mature person who's had to grow up too quickly. And like, you're in the military, always like on the edge of dying. You don't have the luxury to not be direct and blunt. Like, you just have to be direct. You have to ask the thing.
And they don't have time either
I
at
think,
this moment.
Yeah. So I actually think this is from like him being very mature of bringing this up.
I don't know. I quite enjoyed Alanik's point of view. I was chatting with Jess last night. Jess, you liked Alanik less.
Yeah. So I actually don't like Alanik super well. Like, I liked her more in Evershore. I liked her from someone else's POV because I felt like she had more of a different character then. But in Redawn, firstly, I didn't really want to be in a new character's head that I had to learn all over again. Like, I have trouble with that, so I struggled through Redawn for a lot of it. But she felt like Spencer. Like, she was really kind of aggressive in ways. She was headstrong. She would like push through things. And that just felt like Spencer to me. So it was hard for me to be in her head and think of her as a different character when she had such similar traits to Spencer. But then in Evershore, we do see those traits as well. But seeing it from a different perspective actually made them feel a lot different. So I liked that a lot more. And I think like if we'd had something with Alanik in it before Redawn, I probably would have liked her a lot more. But the fact that we just don't ever see her or know anything about her really until we're in her head, that was just so hard for me to get into.
Yeah, because like FM has that like one conversation with her, and then Joshua comes in and ruins everything, and Alanik's like, "Yeah, I'm out.
I can teleport. Bye, guys.
I'm getting out of Dodge."
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, Jess, but I think it was a very necessary point of view, so I didn't mind doing the learning curve. And also, like, it's been a mystery since Starsight, so I liked having that aspect. But I can see why it slows things down. But fortunately for me, Redawn really picks up.
Yeah, it's also just the me thing. Like, I don't like first person a lot of the time. Like, I don't like being in someone's head like that because it is harder for me to take it all in, I guess. Like, it's just a very big learning curve for me. And like, I find starting new books a hard learning curve as it is. So being in someone's head is kind of the next stage. So yeah, it's largely a me thing. But yeah, I didn't like her all that much to begin with. I like her kind of more now.
definitely like her joining the flight in Evershore. I think it really shone. But I think Evershore, everyone shone really well. Like that's the great thing about that, where like you're focused on Jorgen, but everyone has the place to shine.
I realized there was one other thing I had about Alanik. I found it kind of super cringy when they were doing the call sign and it's like, oh, Angel. I'm like, okay, that feels kind of cringy to me. But then in Evershore, when she's called Angel as the call sign, that seems fine. I don't know why, like, one of the scenes came off really badly to me, and then afterwards it was totally fine. But maybe it's because, like, we have all these really weird call signs that people have. They're just casually thrown into the books. So it didn't jump out as being all that strange in Evershore. But going through the process of, oh, we have these things called angels, and maybe let's call you Angel. Like, oh, I have secondhand embarrassment reading this scene.
But like, it makes sense
It's
that
cute.
like, because this is also Arturo, whose call sign is Amphisbaena.
Yeah.
Like
He would do a mythology
he would do
thing.
mythology. Like he would do like suggestive mythological.
Yeah.
And like I liked that, and it was a way to show that the cultural exchange between humans in Erdale in the past, where like he knows what angels are, like so it's like, okay, like yes, like here is a thing like I can connect to. Like I don't know what birds are, but like I've heard of angels.
Yeah. Look, at least it wasn't an elf reference.
That
'Cause,
would have
like,
been
I
more
know we got
cringy.
the Tolkien reference, which was cool and fun.
Mhm.
I'm glad it wasn't continued on, because I think that would have been too much.
Yeah,
Didn't
'cause-
get that was a Tolkien reference until somebody said something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually pick up on it until someone said something on the Discord, and then I vehemently disagreed until Brandon said something about it.
yeah, and the way that it fits with like the first letter thing, because most of the call signs, like call sign starts with the first letter as a way of like making it easier on the reader to like remember these are the same person, and like so like her call sign could have been Arwen.
Oh, that would have been bad.
So thankfully it's Angel.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
that will make that scene better for you, knowing it could have been Arwen.
Could have been so much
Could have
worse.
been worse.
Could have been worse. Speaking of call signs, I think another favorite moment is just every alien being like, call sign jerk face. This translation, what I'm really confused. What is that? And then in Evershore, Alanik's like, it's I know that's what it sounds like, but it's not that.
They could have just said it's a term of endearment. Don't worry about it.
I'm actually reading a different book at the moment that has like fake Chinese in it that keeps giving different characters nicknames, and they keep asking, what does that mean? And it's like, and the answer is always, it's a term of great respect to like every single one of them.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
I mean, it actually is in the book. They just are finding it funny to not translate it. But yeah, they do it to like 4 different characters.
That's funny.
I think so.
Any other thoughts or anything we want to share?
Oh, yeah. One last thing about Jorgen and his call sign, because it just jumped to mind. I liked the scene where he's thinking about his call sign and how his parents are like, you have to change that. And he's like, but I like it because Spencer gave it to me. And I like Spencer. I thought that was so cute.
Jess, it's not going to surprise you, but I was thinking the exact same thing and wanted to bring that up. So there you go. We're hive minding. What a concept. So unusual.
Who would have thought?
Yes. I would just say the character relationship vibes are 10 out of 10, and Jancy also made the plot be really good as well. So like you get that really good marriage of character struggle with plot, and I think that makes these really fantastic.
Yeah. I was saying to Eric last night, actually, that they kind of come across like Sunreach is a character and relationship book, Read On is a plot book, and then Evershore is a combination of character and plot. And that works really well.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. You can find us at 17char.com for all the news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud. You can leave us a review on iTunes. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can also support us on Patreon. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.